Do you even know what a H1B visa is? Well, you should, because millions of people who have been begging to join it, just got royally screwed over because of what Donald Trump just signed. You see, a new proclamation that was literally signed just a few days ago now imposes a $100,000 fee for all new H1B visa applications or new petitions. This is drastically higher than the current fees, and unsurprisingly, 99% of people that want to join onto the H1B visa application will not be able to pay that. And of course, Donald Trump knows that. Now, a H1B visa is a classification of a non-immigrant visa in the United States, which of course allows US employers to outsource their labor to foreign immigrants. And now, if the fee is not paid, new H1B visa holders will be denied entry to the United States starting today. Now, the White House have clarified that this fee is just a one-time payment, it's not recurring, which, how nice of them, especially considering initial statements were extremely ambiguous, causing international panic. Now, by doing this, Trump said that this should prioritize US workers and actually cut down on visa abuse. But critics warned this could scare off tech talent, could hurt families, and of course, damage America's innovation capacity. This is not just about policy. This will completely reshape who gets to work in the US. And from the looks of it, it's not looking like anyone's going to want to work there anytime soon.
Did you see this video of passengers trying to get off a flight after Trump announced that the application fees for H1B visas will be $100,000? This happened on an Emirates flight trying to leave out of San Francisco International Airport. That was on the same day that Trump announced that the application fees for H1B visas will go up to $100,000. Compare that to the fact that historically, the H1B visa applications has cost between $1,700 to $4,500, and that this new $100,000 annual fee will go into effect starting September 21st. That's why people are rushing to get off the plane, because the way it's being presented is that if you're in the country when the fee goes into effect, you don't have to pay it right now. But if you're outside of the country and try to come back in after the 21st, they're going to check to see if that fee was paid. And people weren't just scrambling to get off flights, people were scrambling to get on flights and being extorted for it. Like people in India with H1B visas saw the prices of flights soar because there were so many people trying to rush back to the US. Heck, some people who were in India when Trump dropped the news already missed the deadline because there weren't enough flights to get back home. And of course, the big tech companies are also scrambling, asking employees not to leave the country or those who are abroad to come back quickly. Now, there are supposed to be legal challenges, but it doesn't matter. In the meantime, the chaos is the point. Of course, they're saying they're doing all of this because US companies keep hiring foreign workers and undercutting US workers. That is a big, complex conversation that we need to have, and that needs to be had with businesses and how they treat their employees. But Trump's move is always hurting the employee, the people of color, the immigrants. This kind of whiplash from a Trump administration, both for companies and for people, is something that's genuinely making everyone think twice about investing or coming to the US in any way. Because even if they do everything right, they can find themselves in this kind of chaos under this administration.
Hi guys, welcome back to our YouTube channel. My name is Teresa.
And I'm Scholar, and here's what we have for you today. The US just added a new tax on H1B visa, and that's the visa many skilled workers used, also the ones in tech. That's where they rely on. And so what's happening? How are people reacting about it, and why does it matter? Let's talk about it.
Indians working in the US have gotten the biggest shock of their lives, but it may work out to be very well for India, and I'll explain exactly what is happening. So yesterday, President Trump mentioned that any American company hiring foreign workers on H1B visa will have to pay $100,000 every year to the US government in the form of a fee. Which means every Indian who will be hired by an American company, well, that company in the US will have to pay 88 lakh rupees, not one time, but every single year. Now, this means that practically all the Indians working in the US and are not already US citizens may have to come back, because right now this is a presidential order, and whether it's going to sustain in the US Congress or not, we can't really say. But imagine it does. I'll tell you what will happen. For example, when I speak with the administration at B schools in India like ISB as well as IIMA, the administration is really happy because right now the kind of applicants they're getting to these colleges for the MBA program are absolutely phenomenal. Because, 35% of the Indians who would apply to the US every year in search for better MBA are now not applying, and all these people are now studying in India. Similarly, now the best of talent from the world is going to come back to India because companies may not want to hire them in the US. And over the next 5 to 7 years, I would predict that a lot of global companies would then begin to bring investments into India, start setting up companies into India, and quite like how China grew over the past 2 decades on the back of their fabulous talent, which built massive tech companies inside of China which are now going global. The same journey may actually happen for India over the next 1 decade, because 71% of the H1B applicants are actually Indians and only 12% are Chinese, which is why, while it is really painful for people who have family members in the US working right now in the short term, in the long term, it may be a fabulous golden opportunity for our country, India. Share it with someone who may need.
The healthcare system is cooked, so the proclamation that was just signed, now requiring companies to pay $100,000 for people on HB1 visas, basically to prioritize Americans to get the jobs. So now everybody's thinking about tech. They're just going to outsource it and da-da. Nobody is thinking about healthcare. Do you guys not understand how many people in healthcare currently are under an HB1 visa? And if these companies do away with them, we don't have enough people to fill those vacancies at this time. So what are we going to do? Nobody's going to be able to see a provider. Nobody's going to be able to seek treatment because we're already flooded. We already don't have enough with what we have. So if the people with the HB1 visas can no longer work, it's going to get spooky.
Oh no, this is gonna start beef with the entire tech industry. A lot of the most important people in tech, like Elon, the CEO of Google, Microsoft, Adobe, IBM, all came to the country on an H1B visa. H1B visas are basically the government's way of saying, hey, if you have a specialty occupation, if you're really good and really educated on something, we want you coming to our country to help our companies and build up our economy. The government has a cap on H1B visas, they're super competitive, companies can only hand out a certain amount, they only last up to 6 years usually, and the president just said, hey, if you want to bring people in on an H1B visa, you got to pay the US government 100 bands. The idea is if we limit H1B visas, more Americans will get hired. But the problem is H1B visas were already limited, and you can't just magically make rocket scientists, especially when you're cutting the Department of Education at the same time. So what will happen instead, most likely, is US companies will say, damn, they're charging us 100 grand to bring people here, so let's just build offices there instead.
This whole H1B visa thing is exactly why I think this regime is going to fail. And let me tell you why. I'm not saying things aren't bad, and I'm not saying you shouldn't worry, but I am telling you this. Every single authoritarian regime throughout time has succeeded because it has used the centralization of power. Usually that centralization of power is within one single leader, and that single leader has a very clear, organized, and precise goal in mind. And right now there are 4 major factions that are battling for control of this country. Number 1, the Orange Clown. The Orange Clown is an authoritarian. Does he know what that is? No. But does he know what he wants? Yes. He wants full, unchecked power to do 2 things. He wants to get revenge on his enemies and to enrich himself. That's it. End of story. Next, we have the Heritage Foundation that controls the evangelical base, and their goal is very clear, very obvious. They want a Christo-fascist nation. Next, we have the tech bros, notably Peter Thiel and Elon, who very famously and very proudly purchased this past contest for the Orange Clown, and Peter Thiel, who purchased and installed Couchboy to implement his vision for the future. His vision of the future is, of course, complete government deregulation and the dismantling of democracy to replace it with a techno-oligarchy. And last, we have potentially the most dangerous of all, Mr. Miller himself, Pee Wee German. And he is not dangerous because he's particularly intelligent, obviously. He is dangerous because he is effectively running the country right now. This is not opinion, this is fact, verified through multiple sources coming out of this regime. Pee Wee German is running this country. Pee Wee German writes up executive orders, puts them in front of the Orange Clown, and then tells the Orange Clown to go have fun building his big, beautiful ballroom. This is why this H1B visa thing is such a perfect example of why this regime is not sustainable, why it will only continue to attack itself. It does not coordinate, it does not communicate, it does not work together. Pee Wee German wrote that executive order because he hates brown people. That's it, end of story, that's all it ever is for him. He puts it in front of the Orange Clown. The Orange Clown does not know what H1B visas are. He signs it because Pee Wee German told him to, and also because he sees everything through the lens of a mob boss, right? He gets excited at the idea that maybe, these big tech companies are going to panic and they're going to want to keep these visas, and so they are going to bribe the Orange Clown. Very exciting. He will get richer. That's what he wants. Now, the tech bros are going to absolutely flip out about these visas because not only are they incredibly important to their companies, a lot of them are here because of those visas. Like Elon. If you remember back in December, he got into a huge Twitter war with MAGA about these visas, saying that he will go to war on this issue, the likes of which you cannot comprehend. Quote. Now, the Heritage Foundation seems actually pretty neutral about this issue. They don't really care one way or another. Yes, they want to limit immigration, but also I looked into them and they have used these visas in the past for their own organization. So we're going to leave them out of this battle this one time. So basically what is going to happen is these three factions are just going to try and battle it out, right? So we got Pee Wee German, who's trying to flex his power over the Orange Clown and also over the tech bros. I do believe that he has a vendetta against the tech bros, specifically Elon, mostly because of his wife. Look into that. And we have the tech bros who are going to fight back with threats of withholding their immense wealth. And then we have the Orange Clown who is going to sit there peeing in his diaper, wondering if maybe Mark Zuckerberg is going to give him a cool gold trophy, just like Tim Apple did. And if we pull back and look at the big picture, this executive order is absolutely illegal, unenforceable, and will be struck down by courts immediately because everybody who works in this administration is an incompetent buffoon. In the meantime, we have panic and chaos while these poor visa holders' lives hang in the balance, not knowing if they can stay or if they can go, while the regime is coming out already contradicting half of what was in the executive order. Rinse and repeat until they completely lose power, whether it be in the midterms or worst case scenario in 4 years. Because this regime does not know how to legislate. They do not know how to implement. All they know how to do is break things. And that is not how you create a successful authoritarian regime. I mean, seriously, at this point, I could do a better job.
I'm so mad and frustrated right now because me and my wife, we were planning to go to Korea tomorrow for my sister's wedding. However, Trump just signed a bill for H1B visa holders. So H1B visa is basically a working visa for foreigners to work in US. And employers normally sponsor those visas. And the bill basically was now employers have to pay $100,000 per person per year, which basically means do not hire foreign workers outside of US. For my case, my petition already approved and everything, so that all I needed to do was go to Korea and go to US Embassy, get the interview for the visa, and then get the visa stamp, and then come back to US. That was my plan. However, now that this bill is just going to be effective tomorrow, everything is uncertain. Like, I don't even know how long it will take for them to give me a visa stamp, and I don't even know if they're just going to give me a visa stamp. And I don't even know, even if I get a visa stamp, when I come to US, they might ask, did your employer pay that? Answer is no. And will my employer pay for me that amount of money? No. So we've decided not to go. We were so excited until we heard this news, and I haven't even talked to my mom. I don't even know what to tell her. She was so excited to see us, especially since my wife is pregnant. I don't even know when I'm gonna be able to leave this country. I'm just sending out this for awareness to people like myself. If you're currently in US with the H1B visa working as a foreigner, do not leave this country. Otherwise, you might not be able to come back.
Trump just signed an executive order that imposes a $100,000 fee on the H1B visa, which is really just as well because the AI development was getting out of hand. We needed to slow that shit down anyway. He also re-unveiled the gold card, which now costs $1 million, which is essentially just a VIP line for Disneyland, but for staying in America. I guess if you've got the cash, you might as well ride the becoming a resident roller coaster in first class. By the way, we have no method to collect this payment, but I digress. Trump's immigration policy is just now a luxury paywall. Make America Great Again is just turning into Make America Gated Again. The next thing you know, crossing the border will come with a resort fee and a 2-drink minimum. Thank you for entering the U.S. Enjoy your bottle of despair and a coupon for the overpriced healthcare. You know who can afford the 100K visa? The same people that were already building AI to replace Americans. Congratulations, you've outpriced the struggling immigrant and replaced him with Elon Musk's AI chatbot. You know it's dystopian when the American dream is now a premium feature. You can't get in with hard work anymore. You can only get in with a black Amex and a LinkedIn profile that ends with .ai.
America has a secret weapon. That secret weapon is the H1B, Without the H1B, the scientific establishment of this country would collapse. Forget about Google. Forget about Silicon Valley. There would be no Silicon Valley without the H1B. And you know what the H1B is? It's the genius visa, okay? You realize that in the United States, 50% of all PhD candidates are foreign-born? At my system, one of the biggest in the United States, 100% of the PhD candidates are foreign-born. The United States is the magnet sucking up all the brains of the world, but now the brains are going back. They're going back to China. They're going back to India. And people are saying, oh my God, there's a Silicon Valley in India now. Oh my God, there's a Silicon Valley in China. Duh. Where did it come from? It came from the United States. So don't tell me that science isn't the engine of prosperity. You remove the H-1B visa and you collapse the economy. In Wall Street Journal, editorialized against a congressman who wanted to ban the H-1B, saying they'll take jobs away from the American people. The Wall Street Journal said, look, there are no Americans who can take these jobs. These are at the highest level of high technology. They don't take away jobs for Americans. They create entire industries.
As someone who's entered in big tech and been around people who have been on H-1B visas, here's my opinion on the executive order passed by Donald Trump. This will not have an immediate effect on H-1Bs who are currently working in the United States. What it will have an effect on are students who are international trying to get an H-1B visa. Unlike what most people are claiming, it is only a one-time fee, which means it doesn't apply to renewals or to people who already hold H-1B visas. But what does this mean going forward? Well, companies are going to have to weigh in how much they're going to pay H-1B visas in the future, and if that is worth a upfront $100,000 hit. There's also a lot of disinformation on whether or not H-1B visas get paid less upfront, and it's not true that they get paid less. They get paid basically the same up front when they're hired, right? When you hire an H-1B visa, I'm pretty sure you have to pay them the market value of that job. However, in big tech, there's this thing called refreshers. They're typically annual, and what happens is you get a new chunk of restricted stock units that you are going to get invested over the next 4 years. This is typically where big tech shorts their international workers. And along with how much their pay gets increased when they receive a promotion, big tech companies are still able to pay international workers less. And from my personal experience, I don't think that there's a really big discrepancy between the talent pool of international students versus domestic students. So when a big tech company decides to hire international students in droves, what I see is a company that's looking to just be able to pay these workers less down the road. I do think that there is a need to bring in talented H-1B visa holders into our country to make our big tech companies and other companies competitive. However, I do think that it has gotten out of hand, and big tech companies are just going to H-1Bs as the default so that they can save, a couple $100,000 down the line. And I see this one-time $100,000 fee as a way to incentivize initially hiring more domestic workers. I don't think now big tech companies are only going to hire domestic workers, but I think they'll probably hire more domestic workers now.
The H1B workers are stressed out, and they're saying we already paid taxes and helped build the US economy. Why make it harder for us to stay here? And some even fear employers are going to not want to sponsor them anymore.
The new tax is making it even more expensive for the companies to hire H1B workers. And in some cases, the extra cost could fall to the workers themselves. Experts want this can push skilled workers to other countries like Canada or even Europe. And this means the US could actually lose the talent that helps power industries like software, AI, and even healthcare.
What do you all think? Should the US add this tax to protect the local jobs, or is it chasing talent away? Drop your thoughts in the comments.
Lastly, special thanks to the original creators featured in this video.
If you found today's video enjoying and helpful, don't forget to leave a like and also comment in the comments below and let us know your thoughts. And also don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for future updates.
See you in the next video.